So we discussed everything about the hormones, their functions, the secret to akai. So now we can discuss how the involve mo cycling in around. So this thing it is some sort of a timeline. It's the time from day 1 until day 28 at the menstrual cycle. So this timeline is only a graph, but not yet a timeline, not yet a graph. So the first thing is a cycle is similar. Each and every time a cycle is similar, the menstrual cycle is similar. So bleeding. So whereby a girl or a woman a similar a bleeder. So that thing you from day 1 until day 7 on average. So from day 1 until day 7, what's a process called menstruation. So these 7 days, ke average, every girl out of 7 days, a bleeder. No, it can be somewhere in between these days. But then beyond that, 11 days, it means something's wrong. Once I consult a doctor or a gynecologist. So from day 1 until day 7, what's menstruation. So if we look at the menstrual cycle, it is divided into the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. So it means whatever time something with the ovarian cycle, look at the uterine cycle, something says at the same time, simultaneously. So what happened to all those processes in this timeline? So when there's the process of menstruation taking place, at the same time the development of the follicle. So from day 1 until day 7 menstruation. So this thing represents the endometrium, that structure that lines the uterus. So it is the endometrium. So you can see size from day 1 until day 7. It means since Hamadian so yeah, no seriza Madiana Mosone during menstruation. It's like a ball, it is a come one thing. Then now we punya in some more old. So you can try as a halamon. So this part Erebonta the endometrium. So it means size thing specifically. So this thing is size the endometrium. The size thing anti-cycle. And then anti-menstruation to the development of the follicle. So this follicle is continually an ovum or an egg. So it is still a follicle, develop. So it develops from day 1 until this day 14. So once the follicle develop, the ovum develop. So once it matured at this stage, the graphene follicle. So the mature follicle, it is called the graphene follicle or the tertiary vesicular follicle. So but then in grade 12 it is the word graphene follicle. So once this follicle, if it's matured, on day 14 is release the ovum. This ovum is matured. So this follicle release. So when this thing is during day 14. So this process whereby the graphene follicle releases a mature ovum, it is called ovulation. So it means during day 14, a process ovulation, the process whereby the graphene follicle releases a mature ovum. So this ovulation, it can occur during day 13 or during day 15, but then always focus on more day 14. So day 14 ke average leon because of bodies abanyana ditshwane. Women have different bodies, so their bodies, they respond differently to this cycle. So after day 7, when the follicle is busy developing, the endometrium starts to grow again. It starts to grow again. So we want to know this endometrium is similar. So this is the endometrium. So we want to know so remember, the follicle is secreting a hormone, the follicle stimulating hormone. So this follicle, no, it's a mistake. Don't forget that this follicle releases the hormone estrogen, and then follicle stimulating hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland. So it means during day 1 until day 7, the body is able to sense that the endometrium size in the body. So then the brain is secreting FSH from the pituitary gland. So this FSH, remember the function, I think, will stimulate the development of the follicle. That's why we call it follicle stimulating hormone. So this follicle stimulating hormone stimulated the development of this follicle. That's why we see this follicle growing up. And then this follicle is secreted the hormone called estrogen. So the function of estrogen, it is to stimulate the endometrium to become thick. So after this follicle is matured, it's going to secrete the hormone estrogen. Then estrogen is going to target this structure so that this structure can become thick to prepare for pregnancy. So you can say this is estrogen. So it means, if I may use this thing to represent estrogen, it means estrogen level rise, and then the same way with the level it's a FSH rise. So this one you want to the level it's a FSH, this one you want to the level it's a estrogen. So the level of FSH already rise. It is because of FSH stimulated the development of this follicle stimulating hormone. And then estrogen, it has to stimulate the endometrium to become thick. So they rise until day 14. And then after day 14, once the process of ovulation has taken place, the brain is able to sense that, and then it starts to secrete another hormone called luteinizing hormone, which is FSH, which is LH. So luteinizing hormone is going to convert the empty graphene follicle into a structure called the corpus luteum. So this thing is going to represent the empty follicle called the corpus luteum. So this structure is formulated a hormone LH. So remember that LH converted the empty follicle into a structure called the corpus luteum. And then this corpus luteum is going to secrete another hormone called progesterone. So it means after day 14, the levels of FSH, they start decreasing. Why they start decreasing? Because of FSH was stimulating the development of the follicle, but then there's no longer a follicle, we have the corpus luteum. So the FSH levels has to decrease, and then we have another hormone called progesterone, which is secreted after ovulation. So it means after ovulation there is another hormone called progesterone. So its levels, they rise up because of progesterone. It is secreted by this structure, the corpus luteum. It secretes progesterone. So this thing represents progesterone. So this progesterone is also going to stimulate this endometrium to become thick because of pregnancy hasn't taken place. So we can't say this progesterone is going to maintain pregnancy because of we are not sure if pregnancy is going to take place or not. So, and then from day 14 until day 28, we see this corpus luteum developing. So this phase from day 14 until day 28, we call it the luteal phase, but then this one is not examinable. And then this phase from day 1 until day 14, we call it the follicle phase. So this is the follicle phase because of the follicular developer, and then this is the luteal phase because of the corpus luteum we are developed. Okay, so and then the cycle continue until day 28. So if the body notice already fertilization didn't take place, to her pregnant, therefore this corpus luteum is similar shrink size I think yeah shrink. So as I say the corpus luteum is shrink, it means the hormone progesterone is no longer going to be secreted, therefore its levels they are drop from the levels I think, and the levels are only drop. It means this thick endometrium is no longer maintained because of when the level of progesterone drop, the levels of estrogen, which is this hormone. They are drop on its own. Another drop, it means the endometrium is no longer maintained since all estrogen levels are dropping and the progesterone levels are dropping. So if this thing is not maintained, it's similar it loses its blood, and then high shrink after day 28 is similar in samadiaon, and then the cycle is similar from day 1, 2, 3 and so on. Then from day 1 until day 7, it means the menstruation because of this thing. It will be similar so it means this cycle is similar to this part because of this thing is no longer maintained. So that's how these hormones are involved in this cycle. So LH, luteinizing hormone, to stimulate ovulation. After that, convert this empty graphene follicle into corpus luteum. And then for your own extra information, it means from day 14 re ka nna ra reng ngwanyana o fertile o kgona go ba pregnant because of the ovum e releasitswe e nna mo the fallopian tube. It means ya kopana le sperm cell is going to be fertilized and then pregnancy e be etsagala. So if ovum e release mo the fallopian tube e ema fela for 1 day, only 1 day, so it means I release ka day 14 ya go ema go tlhela ka day 15 ya cycle. And then if ka day 15 sample thing, and then the sperm cell se reach mo go yone sa go fertilize be se forma zygote, and then from there, from day 15 ba kwa re tla be tswa ga motho o pregnant. So I'm not pregnant ra go bona this structure, the corpus luteum is a shrink ka size ya teng e gola and the cycle e tswela pele, so that go go tswela pele e secrete progesterone. And then when a pregnancy it takes place, it means progesterone is going to maintain pregnancy. So another thing for a person to be considered fertile, give from day 8 until day 14. Why? From day 8 until day 14, we know ovulation has take place. But then why fertile? The reason is because of if a person have a sexual intercourse without protection, day 8 or day 9, somewhere here, the sperm cell is able to survive for approximately 7 days inside the human body. So the sperm cell is for 7 days. If motor, for example, I have sex ka day 9, it means the sperm cells are from day 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and maybe and then 16, and then ovulation now take place and the sperm cells in the same the body. And then once this ovulation take place, sperm cells in the body, so if the sperm cell be combine and form a zygote. So that's the thing. This thing is like a fertility period, to fertile during this period. So it means from day 1 until day 7, a person is not fertile. It means like I have a sex without protection. And then from day 17 until day 28, I have a sex without protection. Because of 1 day, so it's still surely. So there's nothing that can happen. Yes. Thank you.